Welcome to the Granada House Podcast, coming to you from Granada House Studios in North Park, San Diego.
I'm Hannah Russell, and I'm here with my co-host Kyle Palinok, and together we explore how to live a meaningful, balanced life. Right, Kyle?
That's right, Hannah. We bring real conversations and inspiring stories to help you live life on your own terms. All right, everybody, we got Mike Anderson here. What a treat. Busy guy. So thanks for coming in and doing this, man.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited because I said to you just before when I met you that I sit in your cafe every day. So
yeah, no, that's really cool to hear. It's always great to hear like from people who are there and enjoy it and makes it feel worthwhile.
Oh,
that you do what you do. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, we're gonna get all into that. We're gonna get all up into your business, talk about what you do and why you do it. And although more recently you're all the buzz right now is about Love Song. It's been like over 2 years now.
It's been a little over 2 years. December of 22 is when we had opened.
Love Song
Mid-December.
Coffee. And this was, I remember because when you were in the building phases, I'd walk by and we would compare like progress on where we were at. And man, you did such an amazing job.
Thank you.
On that.
Thank you.
Okay, so same
it wasn't
time.
just you, I know, but
Same time, Love Song was being built at the same time as Granada House.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They had more of a plan of what exactly they wanted to do. I will say that. They hit
it took us a year. I don't know how much that how much that's considered. I don't know what it is for everybody, but when you're slaving away in a place,
if you want to do the quality of work that you did, you got to get permits.
Yeah, everything takes time.
All right, so Mike Anderson, founder, owner of Love Song Coffee, or should we say co-owner? Let's not forget about how they say your better half.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There would be no me and what I do without Jess, my wife. So.
Right, who we love. And that's actually, I met you technically through Jess, I think.
Yeah. You and Jess met, I think right when we kind of first moved to San Diego.
Honestly,
it was through Gene at Subterranean.
For me, it was, Gene, but Kelsey was the one actually, for me, that was like, oh, you need to, because I'm like, I need to get my hair cut.
Yeah.
And she was like, you got to go see Jess. And then it was like, oh, Mike should do it. And this is, so going back, you have Love Song Coffee, Salvage Hair Salon, but this is the former. So let's get into that. When you had just opened that first space, right, with Salvage Salon. Mm-hmm. And that's when our paths first crossed.
I don't quite remember when that was, but we moved here from Arizona in 2013, and we had Salvage in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
And kind of the Cliff Note version of this is I knew I didn't want to raise my kids there. It was too hot. They were little, and it was like, what do we do? Like we would go to the splash pad every day.
Yeah, or and we'd get ice cream. Right?
Yeah, Yogurtland. But even when they're little, you can't even do much of that. So, it was just like, okay, we'd come visit here. You could spend 6 hours at the beach with nothing and just be happy, just dig in the sand. So we kind of knew, we had our sights set.
And you found North Park.
We found North Park.
And wait, let's talk about family real quick while we're there, because at the time, how many?
I had 3 at the time.
You had 3, and all girls.
All girls. They were roughly 4.5, 3, and 1.5.
Okay.
So you already had a tribe.
Yeah, we were busy. We had this little hatchback car that we barely fit in. I'd have to dude, I keep kicking
It's
this.
all good. It's all good.
Push the car seats in and close one door, and then hold it and then push the other door close, and they'd go when the doors would close, they'd shift. But so we'd come out here and kind of knew, okay, we're gonna pursue this. When you're a hairstylist, there's no easy transfer, right? You don't just go get a new job. You're starting over.
No, you got to build.
You got to build. You got to build from scratch, and we were already. At that point, I don't know, 11, 12 years into it. Had owned a salon since 2009. So it took some strategy. It took a year of planning on how do we actually make this work. Started looking at all of our clients that were very regularly in and consistent and kind of the higher ticket clients that were doing color and stuff, and said, what if we just pre-book all of this? Let's essentially Tetris a puzzle together.
Okay.
so that we know we could come back every 5 weeks and like see everyone and like insure our finances.
That's awesome.
You know?
So you actually held on to the existing whole biz. That's
you
really
did a
smart.
slow move.
It was slow. So for about the first year, it was kind of funny. So for what was it? About a year and a half, we would go there every 5 weeks. We'd load up our girls. We'd go work for a week. And these are like 12, 14-hour work days, just hair marathons. Marathons, you know? Marathons.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, I'm assuming this is kind of like a financial way for you guys to like continue this journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we've got nothing if we
not
don't
only
have that.
you originally were an entrepreneur there and built that up, then the kids, which complicates a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who don't have kids, I mean, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're also you're being ambitious and coming out here and trying to do it all over again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wow. And honestly, if you even want to back it up a little bit there, like I'll keep it short, but Jess and I were both just independent stylists at a salon and just had been like newly married, bought a house, had our cars. Yeah. We're doing kind of the dual income, no kid thing.
Yeah.
And then the recession hit right after this.
Okay.
And we got crushed. Yeah, we got crushed. We were just having Hanalei, our firstborn. Insurance things got all wonky. Like we got put in a really bad spot.
Right.
And so we opened our first salon. Like we knew we wanted to. I knew whatever I would do, I'd want to like make it my own.
Yeah.
But we didn't have. But it still felt forced at the time. It was kind of survivalistic. You know, it was like, okay, this is really expensive. We're getting crushed. Our house is worth half of what it was.
Right.
All that stuff. So before, like, I guess Kickstarter, before I would have known that term, we kind of took the same concept with our clients and just said like, who are our people? And
community,
like who comes and sees us every 4 to 6 weeks,
right?
And we kind of took the top of those folks and just said, hey, here's a package I'll present to you. And it essentially was like a prepay for a year and I'll give you 20% off or something like that. So we had no money, like just like we were just like kids with no money.
Yeah.
But we found the right people, and essentially it was just like lone labor work. Like here, like I've got you committed to a year of highlights.
Yeah.
And I've got 10 of these, and now I could open a salon.
Yeah.
Like so that's where our money came from.
Okay,
and it wasn't a lot. It was like in the grand scheme of things, this is very little. Our first salon was in this little old loft near downtown Phoenix in the ghetto. But
is
it was
that where the
so
name
cool.
came from?
Yeah, essentially we were finding at the time, like one of the hobbies was to find like vintage furniture, and I just like kind of restore it, and like we never wanted anything to be new and look new, and like in my own words was always like I want to be like the anti-salon salon.
It's it is the vibe is super homey. I like every time I'm laying down and getting my hair cut, I look up and I look at all the little creative ways that you used, the rope and the lighting and the tubes and the different, I mean, I'm like seeing all this as like, I'm kind of a DIYer too. And like, so that's you behind some of the, okay.
Yeah.
And then what about, how do you share artistically? Is Jess putting her flair on things too?
Yeah, absolutely. The cool thing about Jess and I is that for the most part, we share similar vision, and we both will kind of get it without having to necessarily articulate it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it's one more than the other or anything like that. I definitely feel like we're a team. One of us will present something, or
you're both creative. You tend to agree a lot on the vision and the style you're going for, and then you have your roles on how to execute it.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, for instance, I'll use Love Song as an example. Like, as we were getting into the thick of that project, I remember we were able to get away for a few nights. We went to a hotel and essentially locked ourselves up to just research design. Like, not research, but just like, I got to find the perfect light fixture. And I got to find the perfect tile. And I got to, and literally I remember a day, I think we sat in bed like the entire day, just on our computers, just like, I got to find this thing.
It's amazing what you found though. I mean, like, I still like, one of my favorite things in the salon is that huge L couch, that vintage low profile couch and it's in great condition. I'm like,
that couch will suck you in.
Score.
I'll
and
tell
my
you
daughter will sit and she'll swing on there. Let's like hang out.
I was about to say, I actually have a sneaky video of you in my phone. I do. From the day that we all went and got our hair cut at Salvage.
Gosh. Let's put the video on that.
And,
send it over.
and then
cool.
I went before you and you're like, oh, now I have to wait longer. And so I have a video of you swinging on the swing.
Oh, yeah.
Daydreaming.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I wanted so bad to have some kind of a hanging chair in Granada House too, and I can have it, but I can't leave it up permanently just because it has to be modular. But we have this big beam, and I'm kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, but, it was funny. Jess, I think, is the one probably initially that wanted swings, and we were like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? You know.
Yeah.
And then ended up finding them and sourcing them, and that's a whole the amount of stuff that was happening in life going on. Like the image that comes to mind when you talk about this is like the messiness and the journey. Yeah. Like the day I was going to get the swings, I got a call that one of my best friends had just passed away. While I was driving to get the swings. So and I remember like driving home, like I got to put these swings up, and then I get this call, and I'm like, this kind of. But when we got the swings and got them up, I tested them thoroughly. Like I was swinging to the kicking off the top of the wall and just like making sure you could really swing. And then I felt sick, of course, afterwards.
It's a good little waiting room in the hairdresser. Yeah. So
I'm not gonna lie, I was enjoying my waiting experience.
Yeah. So it was Salvage in Phoenix, and then you moved out here, and you just picked North Park, or you kind of like fell into North Park.
Kind of fell into North Park. Well. Yeah, and all the trips out here looking for a place to live, I only knew the coast. You know, I've got a brother-in-law that lived in OB, and we had a client who had a place in Del Mar. And I think one day on a random like Craigslist hunt, I just landed at the corner of 32nd and Thorn. And I remember that day was so cool because that corner's changed a lot.
T32, as they call it. Yeah. You got Thorn Street Brew, and now Grand Old is taken over.
So long before that. Was a little vintage furniture store, Ripe, the produce market.
Rustic something. We have a table from them.
Yeah, I don't remember what they were called.
Oh, it was like the little.
They were in the back. It was like the shipping container in the back.
Yeah, I love those guys.
And there was like a gem store. Like I don't know, it was different. But the day we were there, there was a guy outside. It was like live music, but he was playing something really strange. I don't remember the instrument. It was almost like a cello, but it had like a very vibrato heavy tool. It was like weird weepy music, but people were out and shopping, and like we were eating. Ripe had a deli back then, so it was just like cool to sit. Phoenix, this is like before that was a trend, you know. It was just like this is what exists.
So you vibed with the community and the style and what other people were doing in there. And then look at you now. I would say whatever that you gravitated toward. Have you acknowledged yet that you're now like a leader in that, and people are now being inspired? I mean, you ended up getting. I mean, we talk about Ray Street on this podcast at least 3 times already.
We have actually talked about your strip in previous episodes because I moved here not long ago either, like in August last year. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that cafe, that hairdressing salon. And I was like, because I moved from New York. So
Oh,
because there is no shortage of salons in North Park. Like,
no.
Right. I mean, how many are there? Have you ever counted them? There's probably 20.
No, I always have felt like I could walk outside the front door and probably like throw a stone to like 5.
And coffee shops.
Yeah.
And look what you're doing. So you are, I mean, you just went for it. And you ended up, though, on Ray Street in what I consider, I think this is maybe personal for me, but I just, back in the days where they did Ray at Night, and before that, I wasn't here, but I had heard all the stories of the different little studios that were there and where the artists would come. And I do attribute a lot to the growth of our community at large to that general space. So thank you for doing such a great job at that. I mean, I can name a bunch of other businesses that I can say the same for. I mean, let's talk about Pretzels and Pints. You know, we have, and they unfortunately just moved. The Replayed Toys was there. The framing shop. And
Ray felt like it was coming up recently.
And
you know.
So anyway, okay. Let's fast forward a little bit to kind of let's get into the in the nitty gritty here, because now that we know a little bit about your story, like I kind of want to know do you have something that kind of drives you? That has this always been kind of, did you always want to have like an entrepreneurship type of life? Or we always ask this question, or when you grew up and you were little Mikey, right? Can I call you that? Did you think that you'd have a beautiful coffee shop, 5 daughters, and own a hair salon? I mean, come on, let's be real though. I joke about this with people when I talk about, your space and everything. Mm-hmm. This guy, he's got a hair salon with mostly women and 5 daughters and wife. The amount of estrogen you must be around.
And then a spa next
door.
And
then a spa, and then a cafe that is full of influencers.
You have to embrace it. And I'm just curious, tell me about that journey. Like how was that from coming up through your childhood into kind of where you are now?
I can't say that I ever saw that. I don't know that I ever see clearly into the future of what it's not like. I'm not like a and maybe this is going to come across as bad. I'm not like a here's my goal. Here's my vision board. Here's what I'm going to do.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
When I was young, to be honest, the 2 jobs that I really wanted was to move out west and be a lifeguard in the summer and a snowboard patrol guy in the winter. That was my thing. Yeah. So I grew up in the Midwest, in some little snowboard park as a snowboard patrol guy, like 5 days a week. That's what I did. So that's like all I cared about in those 15 to 20 age range, Right. And I kind of thought to be honest, I would love to open 100 different types of businesses.
So if I had the entrepreneurial mind.
There's I wanted to do a pizza place. I wanted to do an ice cream truck. I wanted a snowboard shop. If I could, I would. Honestly, a big picture, if I were to say a goal, or like hey, if this opportunity showed up, I'd love to gather a team of people and open cool businesses together. Nice. That would be super fulfilling, I think. Right. And it's all with the intent of making neighborhoods better. Yeah. Or at least what I'm, that's subjective, but what makes a neighborhood better.
That box for,
If you can create space for people to create connection, okay, let me back up. The way I always say that when we interview people is every one of us has a favorite spot. Maybe in your childhood, your adulthood, there's a place you go to that is just you look forward to. I look forward to getting tacos from this place on Tuesdays or whatever it is, And so I just think even if you can just have a small part of that and be a place that would brighten someone's day, that they feel is home, for lack of a weirder way to put it, just that they would feel what you feel, and you want
so you can share it. You create, and you fruit.
Yeah.
Remember?
It's fruit.
We talked about being fruitful, I think, in our first episode. I talked about people that don't just strive for success, they strive to be fruitful because it's off their success, they're helping others in a way.
Totally.
And so I prefer to use that word. That's kind of
totally
how that came about. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I recently had this funny encounter. And I'm going to tell you the story just because it's probably somewhat interesting. But Jess and I, we look at North Park. I mean, we kind of do this everywhere, but specifically this feels like home to us. So there's not a space I look at and don't think this would be really cool if there were an X here.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So
it could look like this. Our neighbor,
so
filling
in that
voids.
Sense, you see, you have a vision for the design and for what the potential is. Yeah.
And just what would round out a neighborhood. There's so many funny things I want to do at North Park that we don't have that I'm this would just be cool to see here, especially for a place that's growing. There's more young families now and things like that. But all that to be, or I guess all that known. Lucky's, who Lucky recently passed away, and he's been just a North Park staple.
Yeah.
One day he was walking by, and Jess and I had always said that would be such a cool business to bring back to life.
Yeah.
Kind of the values behind it, the easy, quick, cheap grub kind of a thing.
The experience going to Lucky's.
Yeah.
Inexplicable.
Yeah. And so Lucky's walking by one day, and Jess is like, "You should talk to him. Go tell him." And I'm like, "I'm not doing this." We had just opened Love Song, and he'd walk by every day and kind of peek around and So I don't say anything. And then Jess is like, Lucky, can I tell you something really quick? And she kind of says to him, hey, like, you know, we really appreciate you and, you know, being around in this neighborhood, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you ever think you'd want to sell your business one day, like, we'd love to talk to you. And he kind of laughed. Just like, I was like, whoa, because Jess is not one to kind of do. I was surprised.
She saw it as an opportunity.
She just she kind of felt that conviction, you know? Mm-hmm. And he kind of laughed it off and was just like, said he was going to take it with him to heaven. He'd be cooking pancakes in heaven or something like that. Mm-hmm. That was it. It was like he changed the subject to my car, and it was 5 minutes of whatever.
Yeah.
Well, like a year ago, this guy shows up at Love Song looking for me, and he's this really rough dude. Wow. And he's like, I'm not going to even embarrass myself with trying to do his accent, but he's this rough, like Italian Chicago gangster.
Okay.
Like kind of in your face, and he's like scowling and like
picture that.
Like kind of remind me of like Popeye, like I don't know.
Did not match the vibe of Love
Song.
Yeah. And so he's like, hey, well, it's nuts. I wasn't gonna do that. Do it. He says Lucky wants to talk to you, and Lucky's looking for you, and essentially Lucky wants you to have his business.
Oh my God.
No one really knows this.
Are you dropping this news right now?
Well, some friends know it, but it's no. We're not doing anything there.
Right, but
I'm giving you the biggest roundabout way of what I was. What I was getting into, which I'm now even. Now I remember why.
Yeah.
So we sit down with this guy, and to be honest, I mean, we were shocked. We had chills. We're like, "Whoa, are you kidding me? Like, this is a thing, right?"
Yeah.
Freaking out over it. And we had like just opened Love Song, so bad timing. And I sit down with Lucky, and he tells me the story. He had recently just either like had a he'd like tripped and had a concussion, or he had like he had a stroke or something.
Right. Yeah.
And in that experience, he had these 5 girls in white dresses praying around him and walking around him. He's like, "They were your daughters. They were your daughters. And I want you to have this, and I want your daughters to work." And I'm telling you, the only experience,
chills right now.
The only interaction we had ever had was the one where Jess just interrupted him. Like,
but he knew.
He knew something. Like maybe we said, I don't know how he would have
known you had 5 daughters.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that all came from, but at any rate, the reason I was even getting into the story is is kind of the gangster friend of Lucky's. He was like trying to intimidate me and just really grilling me on stuff, and I think he thought we were like trying to get in there and buy Lucky's, and like I was a business guy. Like his mindset was like, "Okay, what are you gonna do with this?" And, blah, blah, blah. And I sat down with him. Steven joined me.
Yeah.
Steven's our like kind of founding GM of Love Song. Yeah. Just if anyone doesn't know, and we sat with the guy for like an hour, and I remember specifically telling him like, "Look, man, I don't think in terms of like this kind of a scenario. I think of community, not business.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think of numbers. I'm not thinking of
You're
gain.
not like trying to do these businesses to just be some rich person that just leaves and
no money is an absolute like byproduct. Like like it's heart. You know. Yeah. And I'm trying to explain this to him, and he's just like, "That's total bullshit. Everyone over here is a money launderer. Everybody, and he's just like, and after about an hour, he goes, "You know what? I think you're a really honest guy," or something like that. Like, you're a really good guy. And he's like, "I believe you," and I'm like, and that's the truth. Like, wow. So again, going back to where you had asked this question, like, business was never about business. Yeah, it's about connection, expression, being a part of something. You know, because like, I'm indirectly a part of this, all right? I was just trying to explain this to someone the other day. Like, the kind of the blessing and the curse is a place like Love Song. Like, I care so much about hospitality and how people come in and feel. Yes. You know, that's like the top priority. Yeah. I don't get to be that guy. Like, it's not my job. It's not my place. I'm not at the register. Steve and I always joke around, like, you can't like walk around and like kiss babies and rub people's heads and shake hands and be the guy, you know, like, it's just not how it works. So I think of hospitality through like my space and Jess's is like it's indirect. So it's like all the things you try to push out of your heart and like into life.
The fact that you just like the satisfaction of doing that, and you've found this calling, right? So a lot of kind of what we end up talking about here is like, it kind of rolls into like vocation, and you have it literally is like something you embody it. I mean, I don't run into you a lot. I mean, like, come on, I've known you for over 10 years. But when I do run into you, I always remember these little nuggets. And speaking of that, this must have been a year and a half ago, because Love Song blew up, right? In a good way.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, so there's this line that's going out the door, and I need to find a way to entertain these people while they're waiting in line. And I was just like, so many, like, people don't usually think that way. And I think it's really interesting about you. And it shows that, you know, it's a gift. It's a something that you're bringing to this community. And I think the more that people can hear kind of the why behind it, you know, and I'm just excited to be able to share this.
Yeah.
I think another thing though that is pretty obvious here is, because we've only talked about these great things that have happened. It's not all easy, right?
Yeah,
it's not.
Certainly not. It's certainly not.
I'd love to hear some of, I don't know, what sort of challenges. Pick a challenge. I mean, how do you deal with certain things? Like, what is the biggest thing that's kind of notable for you? I mean, I know that there's large challenges that people can face, but there's also like this grind, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, if we didn't talk about it, people wouldn't really get the right idea, because a lot of it's just about overcoming the things that are. So tell me a little bit about what's.
Yeah. I think there's an assumption. I've noticed this just in my own world. There's an assumption that, like, oh, you have businesses, and that must mean you have money, and this, and like it's that, and it's like they think
this baller. And
yeah. It's like, couldn't be further from the truth.
They don't see the behind the scenes expense
hard
list
it's hard
and
work.
everything else.
The biggest thing that I would say, and you've surely heard it said, it's lonely. To be honest, it's like lonely to have to kind of be atop of a ship,
right,
and make sure it's being steered in the right direction all the time. Yeah. There's not a lot of people that get to share that space with you. So challenges, man, to be honest, the biggest challenges probably exist more within just life, as opposed to strictly being like within the context of the business, you know.
Yeah. But that's a big part of it. I mean, you're not, especially because you've chosen a life where you can live your passion and do it for the right reasons. You get to merge that in with the reason that a lot of people want to, or how people want to share their life, and that's with their family and their community itself. So you have a large family. So, you know.
No, I was going to say, so it's like you were saying, is like mixing the challenges, mixing life.
Like
juggling that.
Yeah, like, because I mean, business will always present its challenges, you know. Like there's a level of that, but like, and you take it home with you. You have no choice, but like, you can't, like, I don't get to turn off the switch at 5 o'clock and go home and not think of work.
Right. Yeah.
Typically, it consumes most of my day until I'm going to bed, and I'm still texting, you know, people, and we got to do this, and you know, anything that goes. We even had a thing a few weeks ago that was like, this is an issue that shouldn't happen at this level. But at 9 p.m. I'm getting this text that, like, we have to solve you know, before we wake up, and like, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. So it does still come back and fall on you. But man, some of the biggest challenges, I think one, like a lot, like I think we're just kind of, we keep the door open to opportunity, you know? So it's like, we're pursuing these things, like we pursued the first salon, like, but life throws all this stuff at you along the way. And, you know, so when we were, let's see, when the opportunity came to move to the corner in North Park, so we were previously a couple storefronts down on Ray Street. That's the location that went from Phoenix to North Park. Yeah. And there was this corner spot. It was a chiropractor in there. It was, no offense to him, he was a really kind guy, but it was a very dated and like not a spot any of us would probably consider bringing our business to, you know. And but we just knew, like, we have to get in there. Like we spent, you know, the first however many years of salvage up in this loft. Like I was telling you about, no one knew of it. Like, we didn't exist to the world, right? We didn't have a sign. We didn't have anything. This is, again, back before like pallets were a thing. I found a pallet like made letters and like put a sign in my courtyard of the. It was almost like this. Like you'd come up and there was no like street accessibility. Yeah. Cool side note, like Jess used to do Steve Nash's hair, the guy Phoenix Suns point guard, the MVP of the NBA. All the like wives. I used to do some of the players' hair. So this little loft was kind of cool because it was like so unassuming. But then like I remember cutting one of my clients' hair one day and it was just Jess and I in there and Steve Nash and my client. Wow. And my client's like, oh my God, freaking out, you know. And I have her standing while I'm cutting her hair and Steve's here and she's like, Mr. Nash, can I shake your hand? You know, like
nice.
But at any rate, like, okay, so going from that to like little exposure North Park, Ray Street, 2014 to the corner felt like we got to go for this, right?
Right. Yeah.
And in doing so, I had a La Jolla location at this point too, that I opened in 2016. And I was just like, I have no choice but to like merge these. I can't run them both. I was like dying. Like, so back to like, I started having physical issues around that time. Our fourth born, Harvey, was just born around that time. Literally, I'm like, have her strapped to an ergo and I'm like hammering things and, you know, trying to like, and like the calls I would get, like, oh, there's a leak coming through the ceiling and this happened. And I'd be like, all the kids get in the car and come with me because Jess would be here like cutting hair. And I would just be like,
dadding it.
All four, we're going to go and we're going to fix a sink and like get towels or I don't know, you know. Yeah. So in that messiness, when we were leaving La Jolla to pursue this merger, I had like a handshake deal with my landlord to get out of it. Yeah. And it was all said and done and good. And then like months later, he tried suing me. Ooh. And that came at like a really bad time. I've been through that a couple of times now where I've always come out like just all good, like, you know, but when you're in the moment of that, right? So
it doesn't mean the next one's gonna,
This guy came after me, and I don't know anything about court. I've never been. Thankfully, I've got a buddy in LA who's like a real estate lawyer. Yeah. He like helped me prep, and he was like looked over the stuff and was like, dude, you're good. Like this guy's doesn't have a case, but you know,
chasing a dumb opportunity.
You add those kind of life stressors when you're in the thick of trying to run businesses, and you know, we didn't have any kind of managers until the end of 2021, so it was just like just doing hair, handling Instagram, and then me doing admin, maintenance like guy, utility, checks, like finance, you know, couldn't really do hair anymore. So that was a big part. And I've got several stories of that nature that were just like, dang, we're dealing with this right now as we're trying to grow and deal. But we touched base a little bit. The health stuff, that started coming in around that time, like 2016. I just started not feeling so well. That journey progressed until it got really bad in 2019. So I would say today, like having all these places running fairly smoothly, having the right people in place is like incredible. It's such a blessing. I'm super thankful for it. It has afforded me and also like forced me to tend to dealing with health issues and stuff like that. So I would say those are probably the bigger challenges personally. Thankfully, the way that like it's worked out for us, we've primarily been surrounded by really good people.
I was going to ask, is there something that you have in your life that you go to when you're feeling like overwhelmed like that?
Believe it or not in the like, I go lean on my friends and do this. I don't have that. It's not that. I've learned to kind of go inward. Right. That's a big one for me. Again, big topic for another day, but like just the emotional journey that has coincided with like business growth is the biggest part for me probably. And especially when your health you're robbed of your health. Right. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And I, for whatever reason, grew up in a space where like I've always had that inner critic that is like, nothing feels like I did it right. Nothing feels like I did it good enough. Like, you know, there's an internal judgment that I've always carried my whole life. And again, I could say so much about this. I think it's almost too much probably for the time we have here, but I think kind of the discipline of self-compassion for me, for a guy who didn't have it innately, you know, is like when things are tough, I could almost just like picture, like, what would I say to my kid?
Yeah.
When they were going through this.
Yeah.
And kind of holding them and holding space for them.
You find
like,
yourself, you have to be that.
You have to be that.
All of a sudden, you're just tested.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, if I'm gonna be a father, right?
Yeah.
The only way to do that is to fight it in a way that you would tell your kids, and then you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. There's no like running from it. Like, I don't know if this is just what's coming to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, here's like, just a glimpse of it. To the degree of which I've been through and suffered. Like in 2020, I'm telling you, I couldn't even like walk to the corner.
Right.
It was that bad. I was like just bedbound almost all of 2020.
Right.
And never knowing what was going on. With, like, there was never a clear answer. I was like going to neurologists and like so many doctors and trying to figure stuff out. It wasn't until mid-January of this year that I finally like got a diagnosis that put things together and all that.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you are, I know it probably sounds cliche, like, oh, you take things for granted, but I was like such an active guy.
Yeah.
Surfing 4 or 5 days a week, waking up in the morning, running sprints, to not be able to walk. And it wasn't like, oh, I got in an accident in my leg. It was like, what in the hell happened to my body? Like, I'd go to step and I'd like get all contorted, like my coordination would get off, So to live with that from summer of 2019
for 4.5 years
until even now,
5 years.
Yeah, even now, like 2 days ago, I'm cooking breakfast and like my whole body like seizes up. Like I feel like I'm about to have like a seizure or something. And my legs lock.
Oh,
and I like
damn.
can't walk, and I have to. I literally look like Frankenstein. Like my joints get stiff, and I have to like just lay down and hope that that'll pass. You know. So again, without getting all into that world, the learning to be like, dude, this is tough, like really tough. But you've got it. You've got it.
So tell me about these. I'm assuming that you've got these feelings of doubt. You've got these feelings of maybe depression, maybe. I'm trying to think of like how that would affect a normal person. Tell me about that story a little bit, because honestly, it's, if you didn't know, no one would even know right now. I mean, like, you walk around, like you said, you have your heart on your sleeve. You proud of what you do. You are still thinking about how to be a good host, and So how do you feel like you overcome that from an emotional side of things?
Again, the compassion piece is big, because it's easy to blame yourself. And especially when you don't have clear answers as to why things are the way they are. It's easy for me to just feel hyper responsible for something. And even within this kind of health space, you'll see a lot of like things that are like nervous system focused disorders, and a lot of the work is like learning to operate differently, push yourself in different ways. But at the end of all that stuff, there is some level of responsibility that you feel like, because it's not a clear and well-known condition where it's like, here, take a pill and this thing just goes away. So you feel there's a level of like advocacy and, agency that like you have to have in it. And if you're struggling with it, it's easy to put the blame back on yourself for it. So yeah, I think just literally, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Again, like if someone had said, or when anyone talked about self-compassion to me a few years ago, I'd just be like, oh, that sounds, I don't even know what that means. Like, how do you exercise that? Is it taking a nap? Is it having a bath? Is it having drinks with your friend? I don't know. And to me, it has been being able to, like exercise, like lifting weights, make a choice to say in a tough moment, like, okay, back to my kids. How would I talk to my kids? And it's like meditation. The muscle that you use, like you flex it, and over time it strengthens and it becomes more natural.
Habits
so it's a habit every day, and that's how you face these challenges.
It sounds like self-compassion is the, I would call it the partner of your inner critic, because if you look at self-compassion and then you don't naturally have this inner, because I can relate with you, and we talked about this in the first episode when I was on this like, I need to look at my health kind of journey. I'm going to be 40, and then my father was finally diagnosed with with MS after. So kind of similar. I don't know what your diagnosis is.
I was convinced I had MS. Like that's how it was presenting.
Yeah.
And as it turned, I've got a few things, but the quickest version is it's called CIRS.
Okay.
Chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It's mostly brought on by mold toxicity. Oh. Which I think points back to me demoing salons and working in salons without wearing masks, and so I started getting sick through that process. It becomes neurodegenerative. Okay. It often is misdiagnosed as MS, Parkinson's.
It is autoimmune?
Well, it starts to fire up autoimmune conditions because your inflammatory system is like it's just on at all times on fire. So then it's driving up your immune system.
Sudden inflammation is what you experience?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it as inflammation, but again, that's even just a weird topic. Just in the first few weeks of learning of SEERS and like starting to detoxify, just like 30 pounds of inflammation just dropped off. Like,
wow. Okay.
Like just my face.
Crazy.
Like, and you're like, what the hell is inflammation? You know, like what is that? Like just toxins and fluid and, so
but you're still like pushing on with like 3 businesses on a strip. They're doing super well. Yeah. And I get a self-compassion. I get a grateful vibe about being in those places. I noticed the Grateful book this morning.
Book. Yeah.
I love it.
That came in the last few days, right?
Yeah, probably in the last 2 weeks. And I'm going to be honest, you know what's funny about that? We're very intentional about. No, I know, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And that's not an us thing. I don't remember the name of the guy that brought it in, but he's brought it in around a lot of places around town and brings them to like schools. Okay. And I think it's part of a bigger project that he's doing.
Cool.
Okay.
Outside of that book, like, we're really particular about, like, we don't want to catch all, like, collective on the bar top. Like, we try to keep it clean. Drinks are getting sent off there, you know. Like, as soon as you put one thing, like, literally that first week, like, flyers started collecting and, like, business cards. And I was like, wait. This is not it. Book. But it was like, I looked at the book and I was like, oh, this is so sweet. Yeah. This is so cool. I can't get rid of this book. Yeah, like, this is so, it's been fun to see that grow and how many people participate in it.
I do want to know if there was a reason you called the cafe Love Song, because I feel like the name might have something behind it.
Yes and no. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is. For me, it's probably not that good of a story, but again, another Jess and I were like in bed. It's 2 a.m. and we're just blurting out names. No, that one's stupid. I don't like that one. Ugh. And at the same time, and she knows this, but we've never talked about it again, so she probably wouldn't even. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this would like make sense to her.
Resonate with her, yeah.
I had written a song for her on Christmas.
Well, hello, you're a musician?
I've been a musician like my whole life.
How is this not, how did I not know this? How has this not come up? That's amazing.
Honestly, Love Song to me was because I got sick and couldn't play music so much like I was. Wow. This was writing a song. Like the creation it's the same way I'd write a song.
Wow.
And think through that.
And you said the name doesn't really have a big deal.
Well, hey. So the thing about no, it has a big. I just don't know how this would come out or be like heard from someone.
It doesn't have to be the same, you know. Like whatever that is, it is, and that's really cool that's yours. You know?
And it wasn't a music thing. To be clear, like okay, so the song that I wrote for Jess, the whole chorus part of the chorus was "You're My Love Song." Mm-hmm. Like that was the thing. That was the hook.
Right.
And so then I had blurted out "Love Song," and she was just like, "Damn it. I like it too much. Like you won, you win." You know, like
because she wanted to be the one that comes.
Yeah, like what you know. So Love Song stuck.
So good.
But truly, it's awesome. Like it's part of a song.
Well, you know, to pay some, you know, homage to Jess and your dynamic. I mean, I'm understanding. I guess I didn't realize just how powerful that is. Your guys' relationship. What an amazing thing to have, right? I mean, think about it. If you, I mean, to just as a married guy with a couple of kids doing business, especially a lot of it with my wife, I know those challenges, and it's really cool that you guys have that, you know? Yeah,
it definitely, again, feels like a huge blessing, not something you can create on your own, right? Like it's not like you have only so much control in life, you know? Yeah. Jess and I met in hair school, and again, spare you the whole story. Both coming out of relationships, kind of met. I thought she was way too cool for me. Yeah. She thought she called me O-Town Boy from the boy band back then because I had like spiky hair. So I don't know. I just moved from Chicago to Arizona, and she started cutting my hair. I was so particular and so nervous just to get my hair cut because my aunt was a hairstylist and a salon owner. She's the one that encouraged me to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And so, I'm like, sure, I'll go try doing hair, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked the director of the school who to see, and they called her Jessie. Go see little Jessie Knotts. And I was just like, God, dang, I don't know. Like, I think she's really cool. And,
Yeah.
So we were kind of friends for a little bit, just very, very little, cutting, in this like haircut relationship.
Yeah.
And then we hung out on Memorial Day of 2002, and we lived together by July of 2002.
Wow.
We just fully it was wild. You're young. We're so young.
Yeah.
And so we've pretty much been inseparable since May of 2002.
That is so cool.
Well, I mean,
look what you're doing. What an inspiration, man. Like,
yeah, I said I didn't know that Kyle knew you. I was like, we need to like find out who owns Love Song. Like,
we were literally in here. We were meeting up and trying to think about who would embody this, this type of podcast. And I'm like, actually,
because I feel that when I sit in the cafe. And like I've worked as a barista before. I've worked in like many cafes, but like I'm like I get work done, and like it's really nice to sit in here and just like watch the same people that come in every day. Like I know I don't know his name. There's a guy with a really nice dog that comes and sits in there every single day.
Probably Miko.
I think
Glasses.
So. Yeah. And I'm just like, this is a nice open space. It's light, and you just feel the energy in there. So like, did you? I mean, off that, real quick. You had Salvage when you created the cafe. Were you like, I really like coffee, I want a coffee shop? Or was it, I know that this is the perfect space to enhance my vision of like creating community?
Yeah.
Was it more
Both. Okay.
You know what? This would be I would love to at least, I want to acknowledge what Steven has done as well. And you mentioned, this whole dynamic with his wife.
Yeah.
So, because that was also really interesting when I saw, because I knew him from Coffee and Tea Collective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like genius. You bring in somebody who like clearly they know what's up, right? But so
speaking of that, man, how do I make this quick?
Sorry.
You know what? This is an interesting conversation, which is why we've continued it. So like, I don't think anyone's going to mind. Yeah.
So back to the original Salvage, right? Like I'm a dude who was a musician and liked to snowboard. I was not like a hairstylist. What I loved about doing hair was the community, the camaraderie with people, like multiple people in the same space who you can chime in on conversations, like it's a connection, right?
Yeah.
It was hospitality to me.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
I tell my hairdresser lots of things about my life, so
as opposed to like let's do a research about what's the market cap for coffee in North Park. Let's see how many what do we need to charge? How many drinks do we need to sell per day? That's because
so
all hospitality, and this is my like dorky story. This is 2009. Keurig's just showed up around that time, Keurig. Roughly somewhere in there.
Oh boy!
My favorite part was someone would come in and I'd be like, I can make you a coffee.
You did. You made me a coffee when I met you.
Oh, did you really?
And you cut my hair.
Yeah, there you go.
In the first Salvage.
It was just about like it's like someone stepping into your home, you know?
Yeah.
And so at the original Salvage, I had my guitar in the fireplace mantle. There was always a TV with old movies on, like Dumb and Dumber and just like things like that.
You made it look like this cool, like inside of this cabin or something.
Yeah, it was just really like a kitschy, quirky living room space. Yeah. And it was like, but I remember being like, I can make you an iced coffee now with this K-cup thing, and that is what I was excited about. So fast forward.
So it's been on your mind.
It had always been like a thing. Like I enjoy it enough. It's one. You wake up, you look forward to this drink. Like, so that's kind of over here burning. The hospitality piece is a big one. Jess and I are always again like What if we put a thing there? What if we did this here, you know? Stephen and I and his wife Alicia, I met them probably in like 2016. I was leading music at a church, and we had like a band model. There were different bands, so I didn't really know everyone that well. You kind of just get lumped. You get scheduled with people and be like, "Dang, this drummer's not going to be able to hang with this week," or like this guy or that, you know. Yeah. And so you would try to cherry pick people. And Stephen and Alicia and I played together a couple times, and like I just love them, and was just like, hey, we should play together more. So when we developed a relationship in all those years, I'd say to Stephen, if you ever want to leave C&T and just try something new, like let's talk, you know, let's do a thing. So fast forward more, that conversation with he and I went on for a long time, and I cut his hair and we played music. So that's how we knew each other. And in 2021, through just the COVID mess, all that kind of stuff, my health is at a low. I can't even like walk into salvage and hardly function at that point. It's like we need a manager. Like I can't. Truly, I'm saying this, and it might come off as like not as serious as it was to me. It's like I'm not gonna be able to do this much longer. Right. Like there's no way I'm gonna cut it. She came to mind. Jess and I talked about it really briefly. She was like exiting out of her job and was like, "Man, we've never like hired someone like this. But we would love for you to come work with us. Like you're the right person." And thankfully she was up for it. So Alicia came on board October of 21, and we got to reconnect with those guys because we didn't really see them through, like when I had stopped leading music in May of 19 is kind of when my health started tanking. And so like that part of my life just got like a box. It was like bookended, done. COVID, like you can't do this anymore. Like life's pivoting. Right. I didn't really see them. So Stephen kind of shows back up in my life, and I'm like, hey, still, man, like I mean it. Like if you ever want to do anything, let's talk. And when we were expanding Salvage in 2019, so that was like I mentioned previously, it was once a chiropractor's office, then next door was a doctor's office, two separate spaces. And when that became available, I took that one too. Stephen was like, what if we put a coffee cart in there? And to me, it was like, great, let's do that. That'd be fun to have this little thing. And then like just it didn't make sense from just a practicality standpoint, you know? So end of 21, my landlord, basically North Park Bikes used to be there, right? And then a different QQ Massage, I think is what it was called. That's right, on QQ the other Spa. Side. Oh boy. Another place you wouldn't really want to walk into. I would have to go in there sometimes due to like electrical connections and be like, ooh, what is this place? You know? But so I'm negotiating with my landlord. I know I'm going to take this space. It was both those spaces were essentially emptied out through COVID. Right. Again, I'm like too sick to do it. Like I couldn't. We were going and like looking at some stuff because we were starting to talk about Oh Glory with some friends. I couldn't even like go look at a space. I would just have to like sit on the ground in the corner. I just couldn't stand. I couldn't stand and like look someone in the eye without my legs just being wobbly and getting a super bad vertigo. And so it felt, when you talk about risks, you mentioned risks. Everything in me at that time was like, you can't do this. There's no way you can do this. You can't even walk. Like, and your kids are this, and dude, we had just gotten.
Well, you see, like your biggest asset is now like, it's not functioning the way it's supposed to. Your body, right?
Exactly.
So you have to now go through this process of like, it sounds like you're leading up to entrusting someone with helping and.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Well, it was. We were. I mentioned the friend who passed away. He had overdosed. The result of that is we got kicked out of our house in North Park because my friend back when we moved here let us pick out a house, and he bought it. And he said, treat it as yours, do what you want. We assumed we'd buy it from him one day. So it was very much home. Granted, 5 daughters and Jess and I in a 960 square foot 1-bath bungalow. North Park was not the best long-term housing situation. But in my head was, we're gonna build up. We're gonna this is our home base, right? So like this all comes on the tail end of that. We're stuck in our house. We can't move. It's COVID. I'm getting sued by the state because we can't move out. Jeez. We're living in boxes for like 10 months. Then so these spaces, what is now Love Song and Old Glory, they're just sitting vacant, and like the landlord's like, do you want them? Do you want them? And I'm like, no. No. I want nothing to do with them. I can't do any of this.
Because you just don't have the...
I can't.
Yeah.
So we start talking a little more.
Inopportune times.
Yeah. And so with Steve, and what I was going to get at is, we were just sharing the story the other day. I swear it was Christmas Eve. He thinks it might be December 23rd, but I think it's 24th. My landlord gave me an ultimatum and was just like, take him or leave him. I want to work with you. But he said, and I kid, not kidding, not making this up. He's like, some other coffee shop came in and threw in this offer, and I can't refuse it. Ooh. I don't even think he knew I was going to do coffee. Ooh. And we were just like, are you kidding me? I worked for months on this lease. Yeah. We knew it was coffee in a spa. Who is showing up to do coffee next door to our salon? I was just like, screw it. And I called Steve and I was like, I don't know what this looks like yet. Yeah. But we're gonna do it no matter what. Nice. Are you in or are you out? Wow. And he was like, give me a second. Then he was just like, sure, I'll do it. I don't know.
ready to jump in both feet. We don't even know what's down there.
Yeah. But that's so how cool. Beautiful things are created. Yeah. Just trusting that they're gonna work out. Totally.
Totally.
It's been so fun to watch that journey. And running into you guys at your company Christmas party when I was there to play trumpet. Yeah. How weird is that?
Yeah.
Thanks for letting. That
was super cool.
Paige wanted to come watch, and they were like, no, it's a private party. And then I was like, wait a minute, I know
these guys.
They might let us.
Okay.
That's so
good. And then look, it's turned into Salvage, Love Song, Oh Glory, Hold Strip in North Park, Pigment on the End, which I feel kind of adds to your vibe.
Yeah. It's a good book.
And it's nice to hear that this is where it all came from, and the little salvage. And I want to ask him this question, which I feel he's already answered. But I'm going to ask it anyway.
Let's do it. Yeah. And let's just, we can wrap it up in a few minutes. And then,
and then we got to do the secret
I think
question.
it is, maybe look at it from another angle. We'll see. We always ask this question to everybody.
You've pretty much answered it, but, if you look back on your journey, what's one piece of advice that you could give someone that wants to create a life that truly aligns with who they are,
this probably could be articulated a bit more eloquently, but just go for it. Take the risk.
Yeah.
If you don't take the risk, you can ensure that whatever it is that you're wanting to do is not going to happen. Yeah. So despite feeling like you can't do it, take the risk.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Just do it.
Because if it fails, it fails, and you just move on. It's
how far can you fall further than where you started?
It sounds like our episode 2, Shoot for the Moon.
Fall Among the Stars. That was episode 2.
But it just means a lot more. Also, just after hearing this story and after hearing about these challenges and taking what life is giving you and both good and bad I think if anyone out there is listening or watching and they think that it's just whatever cards you're dealt, think again.
It's not.
It's not about what happens to you. It's literally. You talked about self-compassion, and I think that's my big takeaway today, and that resonates with me. I had a whole. Mind shift recently about how I look at my own body. I used to take it for granted completely, but I didn't have something happen, yet, knock on wood, right? Yeah. It's so that's all the more real for me to hear that, as a peer, right? Coming from a peer. So thank you. And that's awesome.
We do have one more thing.
We have another question, and this is our little bonus.
Yeah, this is the bonus. We really do need a jingle for this. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so we have this North Park Main Street little book that obviously
Thanks, Main Street, by the way.
Yeah. We shout them out every episode.
They gave this to us, this beautiful little, they were so kind, and when we opened did you get one of these? When we opened our business, did you do ribbon cutting and all that?
You know what?
You may have missed that.
We honestly, they kept saying, you want to do a ribbon cutting? We're like, yeah. And it was just too busy, and we couldn't do it.
Did you hear that, Main Street? Love Song and Oh Glory need a...
They were very active in trying to make it happen for us, and it was
Mark
just
and Sandra and Will.
Well, it's like
Freddie,
renewing your vows.
Sergio,
renewing
Kyle.
the ribbon cutting.
Yeah, right.
All those guys.
Yeah.
Anyways, before we slide off the topic now. Okay.
I'm not gonna peek.
Every guest that we have on the show writes a question for the next guest in this book, and you just need to answer it. And then when we've wrapped up here, you can write a question for the next guest.
All right, he's already peeking, so let's make it.
Oh wait, is it the first page? No,
it's the last page that has something written on it, because we haven't read it. We don't know what the question is.
What does it say, Mike? We got to answer it.
You can only consult with one person for every decision for the rest of your life. Who are you choosing?
I think I know the answer to this one. Or no.
What this question needs to clarify is it someone dead or alive? Is it
I think you can answer it however you want, because it could be spiritual, it could be family, it could be, whatever is most real to you. I think it's a great question.
Well, it says, okay, if you want to get technical, for every decision for the rest of your life, well, it's one person, and it's however he wants to. They're the only one that you can't ask anyone else but this person.
All right, I'm going to complicate it and say living, the obvious here, no physical, my wife. There's nothing that we don't really do together.
I knew it.
If I'm going to be big and, conversation today, I'd say Jesus.
Yeah.
I'd ask Jesus.
What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
I felt that from you the entire episode. So, yeah. No, I think that's a great answer.
I love it. I think so many takeaways, man, and maybe after we close up here, you get to write your question for the next guest.
Yeah.
So much, and thank you. Thanks for
not
just being here today. Thanks for being you. Thanks for what you've done to our community. And you and Jess both. I mean,
yeah.
It was really hard for me to even, honestly, I wanted both of you on. I know how busy you are. Yeah. And it was like, I got a hold of you first.
Yeah. I know. I would have liked for it to have come too.
I hope.
There's still time.
I know.
There's still time. And you know what? This conversation could have been twice the length. So there's more to.
Okay,
Jess.
If you don't put a timer on me,
we did not talk about the influences in that cafe, so maybe I'll save it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And the beautiful spaces you've created in North Park. Everyone go to Love Song if you haven't already. And, the Art of North Park people.
And thanks for watching. And maybe we can finally draw some connection, with what Love Song's doing and what Granada House. Clearly, we're doing it all for the same reasons.
Yeah.
We just ended up like we just have a mortgage office.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it more fun with all these events, which is great, and all the music.
Yeah.
We need to definitely connect on music and. So that's cool. I had no idea there were so many parallels. Yeah. So many. Okay.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Well, there you have it. Coming at you from Granada House Studios.
Yeah.
And Mike Anderson, Salvage Salon.
Love Song
Coffee.
Oh Glory.
And Oh Glory Spa.
Okay.
Out of North Park.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.